right? But you have to have a real relationship with that thing.
I had to learn that the hard way,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that
I
God is a
do.
person. And he knows and she knows
Yeah.
of our parents
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what we're going through. And you might call this sacrilege or whatever, but I talk to mom
Mm-hmm.
just as often as I talk to dad
Right.
because there's things about me that mom gets,
Yeah.
you know?
I know.
Like I got a letter from her
Yeah.
yesterday in
Oh,
response,
that's
and
so
I was like,
beautiful.
as a society, I struggled with this
Hmm.
for a long time with the mother in heaven thing because she's not talked about, and God's like, well, he wants to protect her,
Mm.
or that's what we're taught anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "No, she's a badass. She can look out for herself,
Mm.
you know? And this whole thing, at least in my mind, that said we don't talk about her because God's
Mm-hmm.
wanting to protect her. I'm like, for me, that created distance between me and my mom. And that
Mm-hmm.
I suffered because of that.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
And I just didn't know enough about her and
Yeah.
develop a relationship with her. And whatever patriarchy happened when the scriptures were being retranslated and
Sure.
whatever, the scriptures are not only a, a story, but they've gone through several social constructs as they've been translated and brought
Mm-hmm.
down through time. It's
Mm-hmm.
a magnificent ultimate game of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, for me, I had to develop my own relationship with my mom
Yeah.
because
Mm.
I'm a mom
Yeah.
and I need that relationship with her.
Yeah. Well, and I think to understand the true feminine energy there is within God, to understand that that is also within his spouse,
Yeah. Yeah.
within our creators, if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like that the juxtaposition of the masculine and feminine energy. I love that when we talk about that in life, I always think, but the ultimate example of that is Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate example of empathy and compassion and charity and love. I mean, it's all there, And so I love that we're seeing right now, Marianne, a return in our society to teaching men how to embrace that feminine thread that runs through them, right?
The
And that, and
gentleman.
yes, the
Yeah.
gentleman, yeah,
Yeah.
and not to say that you're not a protector, hunter, all those things. You are those things
Yeah, I think Chris Williams says you have
inherently.
to get enough man points.
Yeah,
He talked about man points where you have to accrue so many of those man points through
yeah,
testosterone and hunting and chopping
mm-hmm.
wood, which we love
Right,
for them to do,
right.
to then be able to step into the masculine version of
Yeah,
compassion.
yes.
There's nothing like
No,
it.
it's beautiful. Yeah. Do you know, I try really hard on my social post whenever I highlight something amazing that women are doing. I try also to thank the men that are supporting them
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that we live in a space where we elevate one another if we allow ourselves to elevate one another at the same time. That power then is equal. The yoke is equal. The success is equal. The genders are different.
Yes, and they're
Right?
supposed to
And
be.
they're supposed to be. But the success and the support and the love and the concern and the care and the growth, those are all things that can elevate together. And so I really appreciate that, especially in Utah, that we're seeing this kind of swell of, men returning to themselves, to their organic self, not in the testosterone rage, sexist space that we've often put men in, and with good reason, I will say, in the history of our
Yeah, not
of
as
our
a blanket thing,
society.
but there definitely are
Yeah, but
evidences of
but
it.
we've had patterns of that in our history, and so I think women have learned to become very protected, very gun shy, very skeptical of men, and I think through that space, we've also downgraded men, if you will, as we've risen. We've not matched that rise
Right, exactly.
in
Yeah.
in equality with our opposite sex. And so I'm grateful for this return, and I'm grateful for the women and the mothers in the world that are teaching their young men to be men
Mm-hmm.
with that thread of compassion, right? They have enough man points to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that, to
yeah.
embrace that fully, and you're right, Marianne, there's nothing like that.
It's
There's
really
nothing
beautiful.
like feeling a genuinely protective male figure in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? With compassion and empathy and love. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the provide, preside, and protect principles are
Hmm.
ones that I wholeheartedly believe in.
Yeah.
And it is not often that the man of the house or the man of the relationships needs to step in and defend you
Mhm.
with like against an attack of
Right.
like both a firearm or whatever. Like it,
At least not here
thank God,
in in
right,
Utah
right,
Valley
or
where we
like,
are at the moment.
but I know if Richard and I were out
Yeah.
camping and there was a bear threat, he'd be out there
Right.
and he would have my back. But more often than not, I, as a woman, I need to be protected with a
Mm.
bear hug. I don't
Yeah.
need the bear to be a tout.
Yeah, it's
Like,
the heart.
yeah,
It's the
I
heart.
need to be wrapped up and be
Mhm.
like, I'm so oftentimes
Mhm.
frenzied because
Mhm.
of my ability to multitask
Yeah.
that the best thing you can do for me is protect me from myself in some ways,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Give me a container to be in and let me just, you don't need to fix anything. Just let me blow off all my fireworks. And then you tell me that was a good show and then hold me, like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
kind of protection that I need.
Right. Do you know, I had this conversation with at the time he was 16. And I had asked him to take out the garbage earlier that day,
This is
right?
your son.
My son,
Yeah.
yeah. And he just did it without asking, right? He just did it. And, thank you so much for doing that, son. I appreciate you. And later that day, we were having this really intense discussion about why he was feeling some, I don't know what the word is, some angst, I guess, about why are men being put down so frequently, right? Why are we not enough? How come we can't earn enough, be enough, do enough? Even as a 16-year-old, he was
That's
feeling
amazing.
this, So
That's shocking as
yeah,
a
so we were
16-year-old.
having this conversation, and he said, I just don't understand how to protect you because everything that we want to do to protect you, we're told not to do. Don't be that man.
God bless
Don't
this
be that
boy.
thing,
Oh my
And so we were
goodness.
having this conversation. He said, so he asked me that exact question, Marian, how do I actually protect women? And I
Did your
said,
heart as a
oh,
mom just
it
like
just, I mean,
explode? Oh my
well,
gosh.
I thought, first of all, who's your mom? You're a great mom. Like, oh, wait, that's me. You're
Oh,
welcome.
yay, good job.
No, but yes, my heart swelled. It was like that moment where I just sat and I thought, we do not give these young people credit enough for their critical thinking skills. They do have the critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
They are watching society. They are sussing it out to see how they feel. And my response to him was, honey, you took the garbage out when I asked you to take it out. Every single time you do something that I ask you to do in love, with love,
Mhm.
you protect my heart.
Oh, wow.
It's not the big things. And I don't need you to go out and slay all the dragons all the time and bring on all the money and do all the things. I need you to help me do the dishes. I need you to help take the car to the mechanic. I need you to give me hugs once in a
Mhm.
while. I
It's
need
those
you
small daily
to
things.
love. I need you to love. Right. And so I think that was such a huge moment for me to, in me resetting, what does it mean to be protected as a woman
Yeah.
in my life? And it's those
Especially
things.
by
Give
your
me the
boy.
hug, put me in the, let me be me, let me shine, let me do all the things that I'm going to do in the world. And I kind of, I kind of view it like this. I need my man to be the mountain.
Mhm.
And when the sun comes up in the morning, I'm just that like crazy wind that goes around the mountain all day long. And then at the end, he just pulls me, come on,
Uh-huh.
come right back
Uh-huh.
down to center,
Uh-huh.
right? Let's center and let's be together and let's connect and let's love. And I think if more men in business and more men in general understood how powerful women's space, heart, beauty, light is, how much we can do for you, how much we can love, how deep we can go in our loyalty and our commitment to you, we would have to fight a lot less harder, Marianne, to get where we want to go. Um, and it's sad that we have to deal with that stigma, that because we're a mother, right? Or because we might become a mother, or because we are pregnant on our way to motherhood, that all of a sudden we're limited in our capacity. And to some degree we are, and that's a season of life, right?
I think it's a refocus of capacity.
For sure.
You
Oh,
know?
for sure.
I don't even call that a limit. You try making a human.
Yeah, right. No, true. Very true.
It's
Yeah.
a refocus of
Yeah.
capacity
Yeah.
because women are, I heard this once, women are great multipliers.
Yeah.
You give me half of a human cell,
Mm.
I will make a whole human out of it, right?
Yeah.
You give me the money that you make at work, I will build you a home,
Yeah.
right? You give me assholery, you watch how I magnify that, right?
Right.
If you treat me this way, I will magnify that.
Mm.
We have this ability inherently within us to take what we're given
Mm-hmm.
and make it bigger and
Bigger.
make it
Yeah.
more. And gosh, that makes me think of the whole creation story and the creation of the world. I'm like, I'm pretty
Mm.
dang sure that God did not do that alone,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure mom was involved in that. I
Mm.
can see her fingerprints
Mm-hmm.
everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I think about being the great magnifier and the great multiplier, it makes me very focused and much more aware
Mm.
of what I am multiplying. I watch this happen in my car when I'm driving because there was a time it was like 2-3 years ago when we were on the way to our family photo shoot and I was losing it.
It's always the family photo shoot.
Why? I don't know. Like I was absolutely losing it because I'm going to turn off my phone because it's like bugging me, but it was like buzzing on my chair. So we were on our way to a family photo shoot and it's like, okay, we're driving and I want us to be happy in the photos because these are the photos that are going to hang on our wall.
Mhm.
And we getting out the door and getting everyone ready it was so stressful because we had this deadline and the hair wasn't curled in time and the outfit got a stain on it and whatever. And I'm like crying because I know that that's going to lead to the pictures that don't look as good that we want to hang up. And I'm making it worse because I'm absolutely losing and now everyone in the car is crying because I'm losing it. And eventually I ended up calling the photographer. I was like, these pictures are going to be awful. We have to, we're on. You remember this?
Yep, we rescheduled.
We rescheduled because everyone's bawling because mama was losing it. And I multiplied
Yeah.
the anxiety.
Yes.
And I multiplied the stress. And I multiplied all of these things to the point where it affected everybody.
Mhm.
So I feel the mantle
Mhm.
of the energy of the home
Yeah.
so acutely.
Mm.
And at sometimes I have not worn that well
Mhm.
and I have mishandled it. And when I do at my best, I'm saying, like that was this morning, I was telling you earlier, I'm like, I feel so close to empty in my personal tank
Mhm.
that it is a disservice to try and support everything when I feel so empty. I need to go back into myself
Yeah.
and refill myself and do the things that bring me joy and be Marianne
Mhm.
before I can be mom.
Yeah.
That's I don't know, that's what got me this morning. It's where my mind is at.
No, I really, I first of all, I feel that wholeheartedly because I'll tell you, Marianne, we talked in our podcast, which is going to air sometime later this spring. But we really talked about, that journey of being a single mom and being on welfare and having that financial stress and carrying that mantle of providership. And I noticed it more than any other time in my life, the stress that I amplified and multiplied, the stress in my home with my kids. And the angst then and the stress then that my kids reflected to me when I was actually in a better place was like, oh shoot, now I have to figure out how to unravel the multiplied stress that I've brought to my kids for
Oh,
these years,
man, and the heaviness of that.
and when you're in that moment, you don't know, right? You're in the moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I've never felt it more, that mantle of multiplied stress in my life than during that period of time. And it was earlier this year. We're not that far into this year, but it was earlier this year where I had this moment in my closet. I don't know about you, but my closet is
Oh.
sacred. Like,
Yep. We cry in the closet. That's
all
where we
the things
go.
in my closet.
Yep.
And I really said to God, yeah, I am not multiplying what you want me to multiply in my life because I'm too busy multiplying muscle memory. I'm too busy multiplying tension and default stress. And I'm too busy not listening to the thing that I've asked you to give me. Right.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, we're going to do it differently. I'm going to give this to you this year and I'm going to surrender. And that is the word for 2025 for me, is surrender. And you know what, Marianne, what that did almost instantaneously? I just said, I'm out. Like, I'm yours.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take it. Well, like, what do you want me to do? I
Yeah.
am yours. I've got to do something different. And I want to create with you. I want to
Yeah.
co-create something amazing in the world for other people, with other people, for my family, for those people's families. What is that thing? And I'm just going to be the open channel. And you fill and point me wherever it is that I need to go. And I don't think I've ever felt more peace. We're not even like, what is today? 18 days into
Yeah.
this month,
Yeah.
Marianne. And the difference between just a couple of months ago to right now today is massive, because I released that and allowed a higher power to come into my heart and my body.
Wow.
And
That was for me.
yeah.
That was for me just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because for me, I have kicked against the pricks of surrender. I really have.
Yeah.
And it's when it's crazy is my sister's transcribing my mom's journals right now. My mom wrote every day of her life, and she's 80. So, and she took all those Franklin Covey journals on a big piece of luggage home, and
That's
she's
amazing.
writing all of it. And so there's reflections from my childhood that I don't remember but still affect me.
Yeah.
And she shared a passage with me that my mom had wrote probably when I was like 6 or 7. And I asked my mom, when do I get to be the boss? Because I'm the youngest of 10. Everything, there was never enough of anything. There was never enough time. There was never enough
scarcity.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. It was hard. My parents were raising 10 kids on
Yeah.
$20,000 a year.
Wow, girl.
10 kids on $20K.
Wow.
Like,
No, I can't.
It was unfathomable.
Yeah.
And the hustle and bustle of it all, I wanted to be the boss, and I asked my mom, when do I get to be a boss? And she told me in the best she knew how, not throwing her under the bus at all.
Yeah.
But she's never, because you're the youngest, there will always be someone older than you and in charge. And I think for me, that has translated into, well, I don't want to surrender because I don't know that whoever I'm surrendering to has a better plan than I do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that has shown up in my relationship with God ultimately, because when I lacked trust in God, and there's no way I want to surrender to him.
Yeah.
And it is ultimately after, back to our original point of building that relationship with him, understanding that he and mom are real, and not only real, but they love us so much more perfectly than we can imagine. Does that idea of surrender actually become a better option than our original plan?
This has been a theme this week for me, for almost every woman that I have talked to.
Really?
Surrender has come in somehow to our conversation. And you know how I love that you said you kick against the pricks. I use that phrase all the time in my life. Look at me, I'm just kicking against the pricks over here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I wonder it's like I eat a whole sleeve of Oreos and then wonder how come I'm not losing weight. It's like, I'm just kicking over here. Like, why aren't things happening?
That's the version for us of doing lines. It's just sleeves of Oreos.
Yes, it's true. And then at the end, I'm like, who ate all these Oreos? Oh, wait.
Where did they go?
Yeah.
Oh, they're right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eating one less Oreo out of the sleeve is my resolution this year. So,
we're taking that 1% better.
just small steps.
Look, there's one
But
left. You can have.
I was talking to my friend Brandy Vega, and this was actually in December, and we were having this conversation. In fact, her episode is coming out
She was at the studio
on
right
Monday.
after I left.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So her episode's coming out on Monday, and she talked specifically about like that surrender in her life and how challenging it was. And she said that she's like, I have always been the solver of the problem. It's always been just me. And so I really had to go into the banks of my spirituality to decide, do I actually trust God? Do I actually trust him? And so when I was in my closet having this conversation with God, I said, okay, I'm sorry I've been dragging you behind me. I'm telling you where to go. Come on, God, we're going over here.
Yeah, it's like a puppy.
Come on, right?
Yeah.
And finally, I think that he just said, I'm really tired of being dragged around. It'd be nice if you put me first for a minute. And I think when you have a real relationship with that entity, with that person, with that, I mean, it's like a relationship with anybody. Nobody wants to be dragged around all the time. They can't help you.
Yeah.
And so I really had that visual of just sitting next to him, right? And saying, okay, what are we going to do together, right? And if you ask me to walk ahead, I'll let you. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I really loved, which I've thought about, Marianne, what you said to me, which is, it's my turn. And that comes with a whole story. You'll have to watch her podcast to hear it. But that comes with a story. And I have said that in my head like probably every day since we talked.
No kidding.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Yeah.
And not in an entitled sense.
No,
Not
it's
not it is my turn. I feel it. I feel that it's the time of life to step into the higher self.
Do you think that's what fueled your mission to PR?
Oh, that's such a great question.
You
I
know?
do. I do actually. That's a great segue. Really, I do think that.
'Cause I
I
wanted to talk about that because it's this whole business model,
Yeah.
but there's a why behind
Yeah.
it, and there's a why of being seen,
Yeah.
and there's a why of putting yourself in front of people,
Mm.
and it's this. I think there is a spiritual component because I know you, Carrie. I know
Yeah.
that you don't do anything business-wise, metaphorical,
Mm.
physical without having the strong calling, that
Mm.
pull to it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Amen. I love that Sean Finnegan says that all the time. It's one of my favorite things about Sean that he
Love you,
says,
Sean.
"Amen." Amen. I love
I
it.
know. We're always at church.
I
The
know.
Inner Baptist is alive and well with
I know.
Sean.
I know. I love it.
Can I get an amen?
That's my people. That's my people. So I think that's an interesting question, Marianne, and I hadn't really ever contemplated that before you asked me that. So I appreciate that. I think when I started my journey into PR, it was fear-based. It was driven out of fear. And it was twofold. Number one, I was terrified that I would be the sole provider of my family. And I had spent
Was this while you were married?
this was a lot. This was like over 20, what are we at? 27 years ago. This was
Yeah.
over 27 years ago, right? So, so I got married. My spouse was going to going to school, graduated, went on to UVA to get, his master's. And so we moved out east, and brilliant mind. And and we just fell into those blueprinted traditional roles of we had a 2-year-old. I'm going to stay home and take care of our child.
Which
And
there's
you're gonna
nothing
go to
wrong
work.
with, by the way.
No, and it was what we wanted. It was what we wanted at
Yeah,
the time,
yeah.
and so I chose that. And I think that's very important to realize that when you choose to have that responsibility, it's really it will only do you harm to sit in a space that said, well, it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, because it was a choice,
Yeah.
right? And even though you didn't have all the information that you have now, at the time you still chose it. And so accountability for that decision, for those decisions at whatever point in your life those are, just own that. It's
Mhm.
okay. And it will make your journey easier to do that, to get to the next step. So for me, I chose to stay home. I really wanted to be a mom. Which is weird because I didn't grow up wanting to be a mom.
Really?
No, I just wanted to grow up and be happy.
Yeah.
That was it.
Whatever
Whatever
meant.
that looked like.
Yeah, yeah.
And so at the time that looked like, oh, let's have a family. That seems like it would make me happy.
Right.
So I was afraid to be the sole income provider in my family. And that drove me a little bit to look for something that I could do to contribute. Those before influencers, Instagram, social, Google. I mean, it was, Google was there, Facebook, just barely,
Yeah. All of us are boomers on Facebook now.
Yeah, the MySpace was the thing.
Oh yeah. I didn't even do MySpace. I'm like, this is a fad. I'm not gonna
Right?
stick around.
So good. So I didn't even know what it was. I did like 2 posts and was like, this is dumb. Like, what is this thing? So I started looking for things that I could do, and I could see also that we weren't making that much money. New career, newly starting out, and I could see the toll that it was taking on my spouse, and the weight that it was putting on him. And I thought, I think I have more energy. I could help, right? So fear-based, and I can help, right?
I think it's back to what you were saying before, because I recognize this,
Yeah.
to where in my head, I took the proverbial pants of the relationship and put them on, because I was like, part of me was like, you're not doing a good enough job on this.
Yes.
I want more. We don't have more, so I got to do something
So
to
I
fix
have
it.
to do something about
I got to
it.
step in.
That's right. Yeah, and it's funny. I was thinking back, and I thought I didn't really ever ask my spouse at the time, hey, do you need help?
Yeah.
I didn't even ask. I just assumed,
Yeah.
oh, I can do more, so I'm going to do more.
And it's out of a good place. I think it's a purest
100%.
intention. We want more. I'm
Yeah.
going to step in and do more.
Yeah,
But like you said, the fear base is because you can't or
That's
because you
right.
won't.
that's right. Yeah. So I just did it.
Yeah.
because I think I wanted to not feel afraid that I couldn't. So I just did. So, I started nannying. I took my kids. My daughter, I nannied a little boy at my house, and I mean, I just nannied for a while, and then I had my third child, and I came to Utah and I discovered this baby wrap, the long pieces of
Mhm.
like cloth. And I loved it so much. I used it with my third and I went back to the East Coast and nobody was wearing them.
Mhm.
Everyone in Utah was wearing them and no
Oh,
one in
yeah,
the
we're
East Coast.
baby makers out here.
Yeah, yes, right? They were like, we got to have a million carriers because
Yeah.
I got one on my back, one on my front, my hip. So when I went back out east, I called the company and I just said, look, I really love this product. People keep asking me about it. Can I become number one, can I sell them personally?
Mhm.
But then also, can I sell them for you at hospitals and boutiques? Can I be the East Coast retail manager? And they said, okay, sure.
You just
We'll
made up
try
this
that. I
position.
just
You're
was
like,
like, I'm going to do this.
as a
Yeah.
company owner, if someone called me, I'd be like, sure,
Right?
go
I
ahead.
know. Yeah. They were like, great, one less thing that we have to do,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I built that market out. It was from Moby Wraps at the time.
I
And
remember
shout out to
them.
Moby. They're an
Yeah.
awesome company. And they let me have carte blanche on the East Coast for about 3 years. And so through that process, Marianne, and I think this is the beautiful part about lived experience, because when you do have an experience with something personally that has helped you, made you better, you want other people to know about that. It's
Yeah.
like anything, right?
Yeah, of course.
Um, and I really wanted people to understand why baby carrying, baby wrapping was so popular and why it was so important. And so I noticed the sales started to dip. And I thought, it's because people don't understand the benefit, that
Mhm.
there's added benefit. So I just started telling stories about it. I called my local newspaper. I reached out to some moms that had bought from me and said, would you mind being interviewed for a piece on baby wearing, the
That's
significance
so
of baby wearing?
audacious. I don't know if you understand how audacious that is. Because when you call a newspaper, like, what are you gonna say? "I have a story about wearing my baby."
Yeah.
Like, what made you wanna call a newspaper?
Yeah,
And v d
I
like
really don't know, God. I really
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I just thought, well, who has the voice? It wasn't the online voice at the
Yeah,
time.
it didn't exist.
Facebook was there. There were some blogs. There was Google. There, like I said, Facebook was barely there. But the outlet was the newspaper. So you just go where people can see you. You talk a lot about being on stage. Your social media platform is your stage. This
Mhm.
is every time that you speak, you're on a stage to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me at the time, newspapers and magazines were the stage. So I just reached out and thought, I need a voice. I need somebody bigger than me.
Mhm.
And then one thing led to another. So it was my local newspaper, and then the Washington Post picked it up, and then it was, and then they came to the trade show to do a feature, and so it just went in its own direction.
Yeah.
And from that, I had other people reach out to me that said, "Oh, I heard you're doing PR." And I was like, "Totally.
That's what
Let me
I'm
Google
doing.
that."
What's PR?
And I Googled it and said, "Oh, yeah, I do PR. That's what I do." So I just said, I'm a publicist, right? That's what I do.
That's so
And
cool.
I just became a freelance publicist. So I got people on TV. For me, Marianne, I've always loved people. My background's in theater arts. I've always been a performer, and so people fuel my energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I I think when you are a performer, you naturally look for the stories in people,
Mhm.
and and that's what PR is. It's storytelling in a very specific
I
way.
love that PDF that you wrote.
Hmm.
This one phrase stuck out to me, that marketing is sales. How
Hmm.
did you put it? Marketing is sales and PR is stories,
Yeah,
right?
PR is story. Yeah,
Yeah.
PR is what builds the relationship and the brand, right? Marketing is what gets you the
It's a
money.
conversion.
It's a conversion.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with
And
that.
it's short term.
Yeah.
Like, you think about all the money that you spend on ad campaigns to get people to buy a product, a thing, right? And it has to pivot with the market, and it has to shift with what the trends are.
Oh,
And
yeah, you can get burnout, and,
yeah,
billboards only last so long,
right.
and yeah.
But when you put enough stories about your brand out consistently, and people come to, you're very good at that, Marianne. Like, you're very good. Your voice is consistent. Your brand is consistent. Your content is consistent. People know you. And when you start to have that kind of momentum after a while, people are buying from you not because of the marketing campaign. They're buying from you because they've seen enough of you that you're credible. right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think sometimes what I learned through this process of building other people's dreams, and I think it's interesting that I didn't feel like I ever had a story that I could promote.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, 'cause you like doing this for all these other people,
Yeah,
and like many entrepreneurs, we help other people rise,
right.
but then we're like, I mean, I know how, but I didn't do it for
Yeah.
myself,
Well, I just didn't feel like I mean, what was the credibility that I brought,
right?
right? The credibility came in the journey.
Mhm.
So now I have credibility. But at the time, it was one piece of credibility, two, three. Maybe I worked with three clients. I've worked with four, right? So I think if I could if I could go back and tell myself, which I hate doing that. I hate that. Like, but if I could go back and say, girl, you were credible with two clients.
Mhm.
You were credible with three, with one. You did it. Like
Mhm.
the fact that you did it makes you credible,
Right, yeah, proof
you
of
know?
concept.
Yeah. So I love that. For me, that was my whole journey is I wanted to make other people credible because
Do you know what a gift that
it made
is?
me feel credible to
Like,
do that, you know?
it's just so incredible to me to hear you say that
Mm.
because it's such a selfless thing.
Mm.
It reminds me of what Viktor Frankl said. You know, we have
Mm.
an obligation once we rise up to help another.
Mm.
And it is, and I know it sounds altruistic to a lot of people, but there is a kick that we get
Yeah.
out of watching someone else
Oh,
and
it's
being
the
like,
best.
oh my gosh, like I don't need the credit or anything or
Yeah.
the spotlight or whatever, but
Yeah.
I had a hand in helping them
Yes.
get seen and their story is worthy
Yeah.
and their cause is worthy.
Yeah.
And now the world finally knows
Yeah.
about it.
Yes. Amen. I feel that way, Marianne. I've always felt that way. I've always been a champion of people.
And I know that about you. That
Yeah.
was one of the energies that I picked up on from you right
Mm.
away. And the moment we were like in the same space together,
Yeah.
it was like, I need to
I
be around you.
know. Same. I really love that. Yeah. So I think, PR is if you're, so carry this all the way through, Marianne. And I just want to stay in this one little piece of the story because I want to encourage listeners or viewers, if you're live with us, whatever inherent gifts you have, wherever those may lie, things that the essence of yourself is the thing that will pull you in a direction. So if you have an affinity for sales, there's something naturally inside of you. If you just keep seeing that show up as an interest in your life, you need to follow that direction because it's going to take you somewhere. That's your inner self saying, I align with this. I
Mhm.
like this. This feels good. I can do this. And for me, storytelling felt really good. Being a cheerleader for other people in this capacity felt really good. And I think that is an inherent gift. For me, is what a beautiful gift to build other people. And in that process, I get to build myself.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful reciprocity, that you don't I never went into it to build myself,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it
But
became that way through that
exactly.
process. So, so fast forward, a few years and I found myself in a place where it was time for me to go back to work and support my family
What
full
did that look
time.
like? What were the circumstances that
Um,
precipitated that?
yeah, there were some unaddressed mental health challenges in my relationship with my spouse. And life just took a completely different, more darker, more darker, if you can say that, but darker
We
turn,
all know what that means.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it became necessary for me to use those skills that I had leveraged part-time in a contract space to come back to work full time. And then we were talking masculine, feminine energy earlier. Then I really felt, oh, this is providership. This is masculine. Okay, like I got to pull that energy out of me and now I have to go hunt the dinosaur and slay the dragon and pick the berries and make the food
And it
and
comes
light
out
the
of
fire and
necessity in a way,
but and it's a different you step into a different a completely different energy. You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And now you're two-faced almost. It's like if that's not the right word, that's a
No, but
negative
you're living in a
connotation, but you're
duality.
dual. You're dual.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like on the one hand I'm mom and on the other hand I'm doing PR for companies that have employed me and now the responsibilities are twofold and I everybody owns me,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
different way. And
Yeah.
so, but the reason I say that is because that was also in and of itself a different journey. But for me to take those soft skills that pulled me towards storytelling and plug them into a resume of some sort,
Mhm.
after being on welfare, we've talked about that for
Mhm.
a 6-month period of time, which I'm very glad it wasn't longer.
Yeah.
But I was so grateful for that moment, and to be able to tap into something that had been generated by fear initially, that built my credibility over that time without me even really knowing that's what I was doing. To translate that into a resume, gosh, Marianne, what a gift. What a gift. And so I would say to anybody right now that's listening who wants to have a podcast, has a story, has a journey, is looking for a place to put that story.
Mhm.
Um, it's you are credible just because you had the experience. Like, you don't have to have anybody else tell you that you are credible to do what you want to
You
do,
don't need the
because
college degree, by
it's
the way. That's what
no,
I hear.
it's your life.
Yeah.
It's your journey that makes you credible to speak about the thing that is inherently yours.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to be hired, it was the credibility of doing that work that brought me to that space and some confidence in that place. And so yeah, so I've been able to do good PR work for really awesome companies in Utah and a lot of nonprofits and brands, personal brands. And PR is, I love coaching PR because people don't know what it is. So to go back to your point, storytelling is one aspect of it, but how do you take that story and get that to the public?
And
How
make
do
it
you?
bless the public.
That's right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and and make them connect with it and make
Yeah.
them feel compelled to learn more. And there's some very simple strategies, Marianne. One is to remember storytelling. There is an arc of storytelling and marketing, obviously, because you have to develop that quickly for
Mhm.
somebody to get hooked. But that's to generate a sale, like you
Mhm.
said earlier. I need somebody to buy something right now, right? Your PR is that, again, as we talked about earlier, that long term, long burn
Mhm.
credibility game.
Mhm.
And that is not going to give you an ROI immediately. That's going to be a very long
But
process.
without it, you don't have an
You
ROI.
don't
It's
have
this
it.
really
That's right.
strange thing. It's like
Yeah.
this long-term, it's what exists when people are ready to buy, but they want to QC check you,
That's right.
you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And people will study you. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why they go to Consumer Reports to see, are they
Almost
credible?
forgot
Are
about
they
that.
like,
Yeah.
how many stars do they have? How many, and now I think we're seeing a shift from likes or stars, if you will, to views. How many views does somebody have? The
Mhm. It's a
views.
social credit score.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes you, okay, well, I've watched like 10 of their videos. I think I'll subscribe now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's the long game repetitiveness of just persevering through the dead places, right? That where
Mhm.
you feel like nobody's watching you. And then all of a sudden, 6 months goes by, you look at your count and now it's blown up because you've spent the 6 months persevering, right? In
Mhm.
the long game. So if
I'm ignorant of,
right.
right? But I and maybe if you're like me, if you're listening and you're like me, you know that you have your at least a certain level of
Mm-hmm.
credibility, leaving room for yourself to grow.
Right.
You know that what you have is worthy. You know what you have blesses lives,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? There
Yeah.
might be things that if you make a small tweak or if you pivot it in a
Right.
certain way, that you can bless more lives. And when you bless more lives and you help other people climb to the top of the mountain, you get there
Mm-hmm.
too. So please.
Well, and I love when you bless lives because, Marianne, that's a collective, collaborative effort to
Yeah.
bless lives. Like you can't go out in the wilderness with a bullhorn and hope that you're blessing,
Yeah.
people within a 25-mile radius. You got to have people fill in the gaps for you so that message spreads faster.
Right.
So
Right.
so take your tribe with you. Tap into your people, right? And that doesn't necessarily just mean your family. Tap into your colleagues, your friends, your
Your
social media,
cheerleaders.
your people
Yeah.
that believe in you. Um, so first and foremost, Marianne, the number one tip that I give is really understand who you are and what you offer. Um, we often think that we have such brilliant ideas and they're amazing to us, and they just fall dead in the water to the world. Everyone's like, I don't care about that. Like they
It's true.
don't, right? And I've had press releases that go out, and everybody's like, I mean, they get some a little pickup, they're worse than others, some are better than others, and there's a million things that go into that timing, um,
Relevance.
previously
Yep.
calendared items. So when you are putting together who you are, I like this activity of taking 7 words, come up with 7 words that describe who you are and what you do in the world. right? And one of them should be an intrigue word, right? One of them should be an action, and one of them should be the problem that you solve.
Mm.
So it's like, you know, um, disconnection. Great, that's the problem I'm solving. Um, and the other, intrigue word could be exciting, right? And then,
Yeah.
and then your final word could be, you know, um, I don't know even what's going on right. Election, right? Like something relevant, something that's intriguing, and the problem that you're solving. So do a word cloud of 7 words, and then take those 7 words. We're gonna champion ChatGPT here for a
Yes.
minute.
Yes.
Take those 7 words and put them into ChatGPT and say, write a headline using these words.
Ooh, okay. Okay,
Okay.
now we're getting some traction here.
Yeah. So when you do that, you can actually see how relevant you are to what's happening in your community, in your industry, on the news, within, I don't know, within social channels that are maybe going to pick that up. But you can actually read that headline and say, is that exciting for me?
Yeah, yeah, am I inspired by
Am
my
I
own
inspired by
yeah,
my own content, my own words, right?
yeah.
And you just keep refining that process until you come to a 7 word headline that feels like it matches who you are and the energy that you're putting out in the world. And from that space, you can create everything. You can create your blogs, your social posts, your press releases, your articles. This gives you a direction point to say, this is who I am. And if you've written a book, anybody that's out there, I know you have a lot of people in your audience that have written books. So you've done this exercise. You've
Mhm.
had to really hone in on who you are. But if you're just starting out and you're not quite sure, but you're interested in, speaking or podcasting, do this activity of just getting really refined on who you are. That's twofold. The other reason for doing that is that if you do have a publicist or you are pitching yourself to the media, you have a very limited time to grab their attention.
Mhm.
And you have a very limited time when you're on TV or you're interviewing for an article to say what it is that you do, because the story then still has to be told.
Right, and we need to know if we wanna hear it or not.
That's right.
That's the
So,
Alex Hormozy said this. He's like, "It's not that our attention spans are short, it's just that you're not interesting."
yeah, it's true. It's true because news desks, they scan the first 3 words of that email to see if it's relevant
Oh, we
to
all
them.
do this.
Scan, scan,
The reason
scan.
we swipe or stay.
Yeah. So I would just say this helps direct everything that you do. If you have a different campaign or you're doing something, there's another element to your story that you want to talk about, do the same exercise with that,
Mhm.
right? But to help get you started, this is a really great way to do that. The second thing that I would say is to learn the differences between press releases and like earned articles, earned TV
Yeah, you're
segments,
over my head
earned
on that
media.
one.
Yeah.
Because I've been published in magazines and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I don't know the difference between that or a press release or what the
Yeah.
value is in those things.
Yeah. So, and the value of that is really what I want to get to because it's really important. So, paid media, anytime that you add a dollar amount to get something is a marketing effort.
Right. Okay. So
Like,
that you can buy I was approached by Yahoo,
uh-huh.
and they're like, "We're selling spaces in the top 50 entrepreneurs to watch," and I was
Yeah,
like,
no.
that feels weird. Like,
Yeah.
so you're telling me that when you release top 50 entrepreneurs to watch, these are people that just bought those spots? It's not even real?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bothers me.
Yeah, well, and that's why when you see logos promoted or companies that say featured in Forbes, but you can scroll down and see like advertisement or sponsored by, or
Yeah.
those are paid features. So do they add credibility to you at a glance?
Sure. Now I can say Forbes.
Sure. But like
But I just bought a page
I
in
bought a
Forbes. Anyone can
page
do
and wrote
that.
an article. Yeah. So and there's a place for that. I
I
don't want to
think
knock
there
that,
is.
right?
I think there is.
But I'm saying to build the deeper credibility that you're looking for, you want the earned media,
Which is what I loved. That was step number 2 in your
Yeah.
PDF.
Yeah.
The media that's earned,
Yeah.
where people are like, "Oh, okay, now I'm approaching you."
There's a story,
Yeah.
right? Or when you pitch a media entity, they think that there's value in what you've said.
Yeah.
And so then they explore it. They reach out. Could you come in on this day? We'd like to talk about this. Maybe could you even fill the segment, bring a guest, right? Whatever that
See,
looks
that's
like.
the best kind.
Yeah. And that's what you want because that earned media actually, you think about how much money you can spend on paid advertising, Marianne, and you have to continuously spend it to get the evergreen feel of your brand. But if you get a TV segment or an article, guess how long you can chop that up. You can use that in a million different ways for a really long time
Mhm.
and it's evergreen. And so you want that earned media because it says we're relevant in our community, in our space, in our niche.
Yeah.
And the value of that can be anywhere between $3 and $10,000 depending on what that segment looks like and for the length of time that you're on TV or on featured in an article or so you think how much digital advertising results would I get from spending $5,000 to $10,000?
Well, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know unless you spend it. And even then,
Yeah.
it's like,
Right.
But my favorite feeling comes in when we get the phone calls from the
Mhm.
news desk. Richard gets them a lot, actually.
Yeah.
They're
Awesome.
like,
Go, Richard.
hey, we just had this story come up. Can you come cover this as an
Awesome.
expert in this
Yeah.
industry? And I was
Yeah.
like, that is so cool when the
Yes.
news calls you and
That's
says, we
right.
want you to come in.
And that's what you want. That's
Yeah.
what you want is for them to see you enough times that they recognize you as being the person
Yeah.
that they talk to. So, one thing that I wanted to say is that you can associate a value with earned media. You can, like I said, it's right. There is a dollar sign associated with that. So if you're looking to see if PR is valuable for you, there is an equation that agencies within the industry use to tell you what you would have had to pay to get that
Right.
segment.
We've worked with enough influencers to know this too. And
Yeah.
we have them come and they're like, my fee is 15,000 or whatever
Right.
it is. So that's the assigned dollar value.
Right.
But we're still getting the value by the appearance.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are, if you're trying to justify somehow an ROI, there is an attachment
Yeah.
to that, and you can showcase that in your reporting, which is great. The third thing that I will say is PR requires some tools. So you can start locally, small, just going through and trying to source who the media, entities are, journalists, editors, whoever's that's talking about your specific topic, and you can start to create a database of that, and then you can reach out to them slowly, do a little bit of research to find out what their beat is, which is what do they talk about, where have they been seen, where are they published, how many publications do they write for,
Yeah.
and
The more I
then
listen to you, the more I need you.
and then attach.
I'm telling you right now,
No,
Carrie.
I love
I need
it.
you.
I love that. And then you want to attach your pitch to something that's relevant to that editor. So, hey, I saw that you wrote about this XYZ thing. I really loved that. I wanted to tell you why. This
Yeah.
sentence really stood out to me, and it made me think that maybe you would be a good connection for me to reach out to. Now you've personalized that.
Yes.
You're creating that relationship, and it's not just a cold pitch, which they will delete
Oh,
in a
they'll
heartbeat.
skim over that in a second. Event planners and coordinators for speakers do the same thing.
Yeah.
If you go in there saying, I, me, I'm so great, and you're not catering to what the event planner or the media specialist
Right.
wants.
Right.
They want their name to look good attached to an amazing story.
Right.
Right? So when you cater to what the person who's publishing you
Mm-hmm.
actually wants, it's saying, you did a great job on this. We're,
Yeah.
we're tailoring to their significance, which isn't a bad thing.
Mhm.
It's not like the facade of this, the
Yeah.
counterfeit is like love bombing, and we don't do that.
Yeah.
We want to say, no, with respect.
Yeah.
You did a fantastic job, and I
Yeah.
loved what you did here. Like you said, I want to connect with you
Yeah.
because of that.
Well, yeah, but you have to, Marianne. Like the whole goal of being in that space to be the PR agent of yourself, if you will, right? Like, you have to be relationship based. It has to
Yeah.
make sense for everybody involved. It's
Exactly.
just because you think it's great, it doesn't. Like I said, nobody cares. But if I think it's great and you think it's great, well, now we're getting somewhere.
Just like
you
we
know?
sat around the table last Friday.
Yeah.
Like with this board that you assembled,
Yeah.
when I got to that board and I saw the synergy,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, if everyone likes it, we have something
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
We are going to create
I only
something
bring
beautiful.
people together that like ideas that I have.
Yeah.
If you don't like an idea, you don't get to sit at the table.
That might be an interesting experiment, actually, to bring together the board of people who like the idea and one cynic
Yeah.
and bring them in and say, poke holes in this.
Yeah. No, I do actually love that idea.
Yeah.
And I do have a fair amount of people that I reach out to say, tell me where this is wrong. Like, right?
Yeah.
Because, and then most of the time I say, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for the feedback. I'm going to tweak this
Yeah,
one
I'm gonna
thing.
tweak it.
But I love the rest
I'm
of
gonna
it.
do it.
And
Yeah.
you're not my target audience.
You know what though, Marianne, is interesting. I am and I think when you are in PR, you do have to be open to a lot of feedback, and you
Well,
ask
yeah,
for
it's
it.
public
Ask
by
for it.
definition.
Whenever I've had a pitch that's been rejected, I will always say, what else do you have going on? Tell me how I can be helpful to you. And that comes from a very sincere place. I know that journalists and editors are very busy people. They get bombarded all the time. Like, I don't want to just be another person in their, contacts that they're like, every time Carrie pitches me, it's crap,
Oh, I know.
I want to add value to their experience because they are giving me value.
You and Sean Finnegan both have this gene
Mm.
snip, right? This I genuine without the funny thing about the law of reciprocity is that
Mm.
if you try to invoke it, it breaks,
Yeah.
right? When you just give for the
Yeah.
sake of it and you're like, I see you as a human.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just an editor name in a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just this. I see you as a human. You have needs, wants. You get bombarded. How can I serve?
Yeah.
Without the follow up of how can I get?
That's right. Yeah.
It's an incredible
Yes.
energy. And think like
Oh,
I can
thanks,
sense this in
Marianne.
people and you have it.
Thank you. I genuinely feel that. I value the journalists and the editors that I've worked with, that I've created relationships with, enough to know a little bit about their actual personal lives as well,
Yeah.
And so I think because it is a synergistic space, and because we do live in a society that is very get, what can I get,
Mhm.
right? Friendships, relationships, business. We're very get minded. And I've never been down with that. It's never been
It
my
doesn't work
vibe.
really.
No, and it doesn't work for me because it's just anti-Carrie. It's just not who I am, And so when you go against your own grain, life doesn't resonate, which is why I said take those 7 words and come up with a headline that feels organic
I
and
want to do
real
this
to
with
you.
you. I want to sit down and just do
Yeah.
this sometime.
Yeah, because you'll feel more authentic when you
Yeah.
pitch. And I think sometimes that imposter syndrome I don't want to say always, but a good part of imposter syndrome
It's familiar to most of us.
comes because you're not quite sure of yourself yet. It's not because you're not credible or it's because you don't have something amazing. It's because you're just not quite sure how to speak about it.
I
You
was
know?
thinking about this last night as we were over dinner. Because with all the things they're creating, I'm creating so many things that scare me that it's exciting.
Oh, I love that. I love that energy of
It's
being
like
scared.
jumping out of an airplane, like,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be great, but
Yeah.
it's still scary. But this outside lens that you're talking about
Mm.
is the question that came to me was, am I the kind of person that's going to attract this? And I, by definition, don't know because I'm not outside myself enough, And that's what I think of with what you're saying is this imposter syndrome. Like, I know I'm credible, but I'm not outside me, so I don't know how other
Right,
people see me
right.
necessarily. I
Yeah.
do need that feedback.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I ask.
Yeah.
Like if I have a pitch that falls flat, I will always say, what's going on how could I make it better?
Yeah.
Is there a different person that maybe needs to hear this? Like, or where can I give you something of value?
Yeah.
And I think that when you are looking for feedback, open-hearted, genuine feedback because you want to improve
Mhm.
and you want to bring a better experience to your listeners, your audience, your readers, your connections, it's an easy ask. Please help.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
And
I
there's
think
no threat to that
No.
question at all.
no, and I think oftentimes we just think, oh, well, they're going to think that we don't know they're going to see the imposter syndrome because I'm asking for this feedback.
Yeah.
But the greatest minds in the world sit around a table and say, poke holes at this.
Yeah.
Right? I need a different perspective. I need to see something different that I can't see because it's me. And so so a lot of PR is presenting yourself in a capacity that is relevant and significant and genuine. Understanding what your story is and how it is relevant to your readers and who your audience is. You're not going to pitch Good Morning America if it's a local KSL dog shelter. It
Yeah.
just doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't, right? It doesn't make sense.
We don't know how it connects to Good Mornings. Why?
Yeah, and Good Morning America doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now if you had a dog shelter movement in 47 of the 50 states in the United States,
Now that's worthy of their
maybe that's
attention.
something for them to pay attention to.
Right.
But we think that our stories are more relevant than they are. And so it's on us then to figure out where the relevancy is. And that's
Mhm.
what PR does, is help you navigate that story so that you can tell it in a really cohesive way.
You know what I want to do for a whole nother episode?
Way.
Okay, so we're big fans of The Office in this house, and we
I
just
love
do you watch The Office?
I love The Office.
I knew I loved you for
I
so
watched
many
the
reasons.
original Office, like when it aired.
Oh yeah, no, and we've been through it. Richard can watch it with his eyes closed and see the whole thing. So there was the episode where he takes the gift baskets.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that
Yes.
one? And they lose their car in the lake.
Yes.
You know, it'd be so fun to do is watch that episode together for a podcast
Oh
and
my
listen to you
gosh.
dissect this.
Oh my gosh.
In terms of PR.
So fun.
How's your daughter Emily? She's 11 now, right?
She's
I'm like,
11.
creeper. How do you know that?
Okay,
I want to watch. Wouldn't that be fun to do for an episode? It's just
That
like
would be
Carrie,
so
pick
fun.
apart the PR.
do you remember Mystery Science Theater? Did you guys
Yes!
watch Mystery Science. That's what it reminds me
Yes.
of. Like,
Do you know what Mystery Science Theater is, babe?
PR.
I've heard of it, but I
He
don't know
doesn't
that I've ever.
Oh, Richard, you would enjoy Mystery Science Theater.
I would imagine that I maybe know what it is, and I just don't know what it is by name.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll
Oh,
see.
I love
It-
Mystery Science
it's
Theater.
just these aliens
Sitting in front of a
watching B-rated.
They watch these
B-roll
crappy
movies.
crappy
They're just
movies.
Terrible, but yeah, that would be fun. It would be our version of Mystery Science.
The Mystery
Theater.
Science Theater. We're just gonna take
So,
this apart.
Yeah. I for anybody that is looking for really great, just some good PR instruction or industry.
You have a
knowledge, like-
really cool
you-
sheet that you put together.
I
I read it right
do.
before the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I was also going to direct people to Prowly. Prowly is a really great PR tool that they have a lot of content
Is
that
it
can educate you.
PROW?
Yeah,
Okay.
PROWLY, and you can look at their content. I mean, you can do a Google search for PR. What is PR? How to do PR? PR tips. You can do a Google search for all of that.
Yeah.
But it's like anything else. It's nice to have a voice, and it's nice to have a coach, and it's nice to have like an immediate reference that from a credible source that
Mhm.
you trust. And so I did put the PDF together for your audience if they're interested in that, and
Yeah.
you have that available.
We'll make that available. Richard, what was the site that we have put together for that? It was MarianHickman.com/PR, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll put that in the show notes too. So
Yeah.
Marian Hickman oh my gosh, I can't even say my own name. There's PR for you. MarianHickman.com/PR. We've got that. I want everyone, if you're listening, to go download this because when I read it before the show, there was just things that I never had even considered
Yeah.
before, never even thought of. And if you want to become a household name and you want to do the good that you say you want to do, this morning I was on a call with a bunch of amazing members of a mastermind that I'm part of. And I said, how many lives really do you want to touch before the end of the week?
Mm-hmm.
And every single participant, they said in the millions.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if nobody knows who you are.
That's right.
And if you want people to know who you are and you want to become a household name, and it's more than just for the glorification of this recognition, it's beyond that. It's how much good can you do?
Yeah.
I think this document is the first step to that. I
Yeah,
really do.
I hope so.
I really
yeah.
do. So that's available for you. Go download it. Where
Yeah.
can people follow you if they want to get to
Yeah.
know you better?
Yes. So, I will direct most people just to go to LinkedIn. You can see Chill Consulting Agency website is the link that's on LinkedIn. And then I just launched a podcast too called Refined Resilience, which we referenced, but Marianne
Yes.
was a guest. Beautiful conversation. And the podcast is on Instagram and YouTube. So it's Refined Resilience Podcast on both. And
We'll put that in the show notes too, so y'all can take
And-
a look at that.
yeah, and this is part of my PR. This is my brand now that
Yeah.
I get to build and I get to leverage, and it's really exciting. And so with the intention of bringing everybody who has supported me in some way to the stage
Yeah.
and giving them an opportunity to talk about how they've cultivated resilience in their life. And a lot of my PR, the clients that I've represented have been resilient beings in the second chapter of their life.
I have some amazing guests that I want to refer to you
Amazing.
and have you on their show. Oh my gosh. Like Jordan. Don't you think Jordan that we met last night would be perfect?
Hi, Jordan.
Oh my gosh.
Love to
yeah,
meet you.
definitely.
He was on Jimmy Rex's podcast. We actually visited him
Amazing.
last night.
Oh, fun.
He's a hero.
Awesome.
Like he
I
took
love
a bullet to
heroes.
the head in Afghanistan, lived.
I grew up in the Army.
Oh,
Like
I
I'm
don't
an
think I
Army
knew
brat.
that.
Yes, I am an
Oh.
Army brat. And so anything that has to do with, I did a lot of PR work for veterans with PTSD and wounded warriors. And that is a soft spot for me.
Okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to connect you guys.
'Kay.
So that he can be on your
I
show.
would love that.
Oh, that would be. I
And,
want to be in
and
the
if you're
studio for that
listening,
episode.
Jordan, thank you for your service. And to any other veterans that are listening, thank you for your
Yes,
service.
and I will second that, and Richard
Yeah.
will, I'm sure, third
Oh,
that.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carrie, thank you for coming today.
Marianne,
Thank you
thank
for blessing my
you.
life. Thank you for being my friend.
Mm.
We have so many things to do together,
Yes.
and I'm going to seed that we are building something big. If you're watching this,
Yes.
October of this year
So
is going to be a big
exciting.
launch. I can't tell you what it is yet, but if you're
You'll
in the
just
space,
have to follow us.
you just
to
have to.
learn.
You have to have the
Where
super
can they
secret,
follow us?
exciting things. So, I mean, our
Yeah,
official PodCon
official podcast
on Instagram
It's up and
is
running.
this.
Yeah.
Where you can see the beginnings of it. You're probably going
Yeah.
to get the first look if you're official
Yes,
PodCon on
yes.
Instagram. But that's what we're doing together,
Yeah.
along with this table that met last week,
Yes,
which gives me goosebumps just to talk about. So
Marianne, thank you. Thank you for the good that you're putting in the world. Thank you for helping people the way that you are in being their champion. And I think that energy is why we resonate so well together too.
we are the great multipliers. We're just multiplying
You got it.
times 2.
That's right. Thank you.
The squared. Friends, thank you for
Hat
being
squared.
here. Yes, yes. Felt hats. If you're listening, we need to have a party.
We need a felt hat party. That's right.
We'll put it together. This is the Marianne Hickman Show. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and then stay tuned for the next episode next week. Take care. And then for Instagram, hi, thank you for being here. If you're not already following Carrie, go follow Carrie. And if you're not already following me, I invite you to follow as well.
Yes.
And what I loved about this episode, Carrie, is that we started off just from the heart, from a spiritual place, and it maintained. And then when we circled back to this feminine energy of multiplying, what you do multiplies. You take great stories and you multiply them and you make them more prolific. And that's what we do on stages too. And when we have 2 of us doing that,
Yeah.
if the force of impact, I'm going to get nerdy for a second. If force equals mass times acceleration, the force that is experienced by the people that are here, when you take the mass of being on stage and the acceleration of PR, it is an exponential growth.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to do so much good.
We are. I agree. Hey, and I wanted just to say, because you mentioned Sean a couple times, but I
First to the live or no?
Well, I want the live to hear
Yeah.
this part, and then we'll say goodbye to you
Okay.
and let you
Yeah.
go.
I just wanted to say thank you to Sean. He's been a huge advocate for me personally, and also a link to many other people that have now come into the other program that I'm creating for single divorced moms. that
Oh,
are
we need to do a
struggling.
whole nother episode on that.
And yes, I would love to, but
Yeah.
I want to give, and to you, Mary, I mean, to all the women and the men who have championed me in this space to create this program. I just want to say thank you. And Sean's one of those people. So thank you.
Amen. That's another one of those relationships that I just protect and
Yeah,
hold dear.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
we'll tag Sean in our show notes for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye. Have a
Bye.
beautiful Friday. We will see you next week.